Run your fingers along the side of your neck. Right now, before you do anything else, go slow. Feel for the small, soft bumps, the ones that catch on a shirt collar, the ones a necklace snags on. Maybe you feel one, maybe you feel six. Maybe there's a little cluster tucked under your jaw where the skin folds. You've probably had them for years. You've probably stopped noticing them. And almost certainly, somewhere along the way, someone told you they were nothing. Just age. Just skin. Just the way things go after 50. I want to tell you something different tonight, and I want you to stay with me while I prove it because it's not a small thing. Those soft little tags on your neck are not a skin problem. They are a message. And the message is not coming from your skin. It's coming from somewhere deeper, somewhere quieter, somewhere that doesn't usually get to speak until it's been ignored for a very long time. Here's what I mean by a message. Your body almost never invents a symptom out of nowhere. A symptom is the visible end of a chain. You see the last link, the part on the surface, the part you can touch, and you assume that's where the problem lives. So you treat the surface. You have the tags snipped off. You buy the little removal kits from the pharmacy. You tie them off with thread, the way your aunt used to. And for a while, that part of your neck is smooth again. And then they come back. Or new ones appear a few inches over. Or they start showing up under your arms, on your eyelids, in the warm fold beneath your chest. You treat the surface again. And the chain underneath the actual chain keeps right on running, completely untouched. And I want to say this plainly, because you may have felt a little foolish about it. You did nothing wrong. Nobody handed you a map. When a thing on your skin keeps coming back, treating the skin is the most reasonable response in the world. It's what almost everyone does. The reason it doesn't work isn't that you weren't trying hard enough. It's that the instructions were incomplete, you were given the last link, and told it was the whole chain. Tonight, I'd like to give you the rest of it. I'm going to walk you backward along that chain tonight, one link at a time. We're going to start at your skin, where you think the problem lives, and we're going to follow it back, link by link, until we arrive at the place where it actually started. And I'll be honest with you, most appointments don't have the minutes for this walk. There isn't time to trace a chain in a 15-minute visit. So let me give you the time. Let's start with the tag itself. What is it, really? The medical name is acrocordon. That's just the clinical word for a skin tag, a soft little growth that hangs off the skin on a narrow stalk. Under a microscope, it's not mysterious at all. It's a small core of loose collagen, the same protein that gives your skin its structure, wrapped in a thin layer of ordinary skin cells, with a few tiny blood vessels threaded through to feed it. That's it. No nerve of its own, usually. No danger in the thing itself. The vast majority of skin tags are completely harmless to touch and carry no risk of becoming anything worse. So if they're harmless, why am I asking you to pay attention? Because of where they grow and how many of them show up. And those two facts are the first two links in the chain. Notice where you found yours. The neck, the armpits, the eyelids, the groin, the fold under the breasts. There's a pattern there, and the pattern is not random. These are the places where skin rubs against skin, where it's warm, where it's a little moist, where there's friction with every movement. Doctors call these intertriginous areas, just a long word meaning the places where two surfaces of skin meet and rub. Skin tags love those zones. So friction is part of the story. For a long time, friction was the whole story people were told. Genetics and rubbing that was the explanation, and you can still hear it today. And it's not wrong. Exactly. It's just badly incomplete. Because here's the question friction can't answer. You and your neighbor are the same age. You both have necks. You both have collars and necklaces and skin that folds when you turn your head. The friction is the same. So why does one of you have two small tags you've barely noticed, and the other has 30 clustered, multiplying new ones every year? Friction explains where they grow. It does not explain why some people grow a forest of them and others grow almost none. For that, you have to follow the chain back another link, away from the skin entirely, and ask a different question, not why here, but what's telling the skin to grow in the first place? Think of it this way. Friction is just the soil. It's the warm, damp corner of the garden where a seed will sprout if a seed happens to land. But soil alone grows nothing. Something has to be feeding it. Something has to be telling things to grow. And that something is the next link. If this is starting to connect things you've wondered about for years, share it with someone whose neck looks like yours. That's honestly how this channel grows, one neck at a time. Here's where we leave the skin behind. The thing feeding the soil, the thing telling the skin to grow, is a hormone. And it's one you already know the name of, even if you've only ever thought of it in connection with diabetes. It's insulin. Now, you know insulin as the blood sugar hormone. You eat, your blood sugar rises, your pancreas releases insulin, and insulin is the key that lets sugar move out of your blood and into your cells to be used for energy. That's the job everyone knows about. Open the door, let the sugar in. Simple. But insulin has a second personality that almost no one talks about. Insulin is also a growth hormone. At its core, it's a signal that says, build, store, make more. When insulin is around, your body reads it as a message that times are good, food is plentiful, go ahead and grow. And here's the part that matters for your neck. Insulin doesn't only talk to the cells that handle sugar. It can also reach the cells in your skin and whisper that same instruction. Grow, build, make more. This is the analogy I want you to hold on to for the rest of tonight, because it makes the whole chain click into place. Insulin, at high levels, behaves a little like fertilizer. And here's the thing about fertilizer. It doesn't make a judgment about what you wanted to grow. Spread too much of it on your lawn and you don't get a healthier lawn. You get weeds sprouting in the cracks of the driveway, things pushing up in the corners where you never planted a single seed. Fertilizer doesn't ask permission. It just says grow to everything within reach. That's what a flood of insulin does in those friction zones on your neck. The soil is ready, the warmth, the rubbing, the fold of skin, and now there's fertilizer pouring over it. So the skin does what the signal tells it to do. It grows. A little soft tag here, another one there. And as long as the fertilizer keeps coming, the tags keep coming with it. And there's a real, measured fingerprint for this. When researchers actually took skin tag tissue and examined it under the microscope, comparing it to normal skin, they found something specific. The skin tag tissue had noticeably higher levels of receptors for a close cousin of insulin, insulin-like growth factor, a growth signal that rises right alongside insulin. The skin tags weren't just sitting in fertile soil. They were studded with extra antennae, extra receivers, tuned to pick up exactly that growth signal. The tissue itself was built to listen for it. So now you have your third link, and it's a big one. The skin tags are growing because something is telling them to grow. And that something is insulin, acting like fertilizer, which leads to the only question that matters now. Why is there so much insulin in the first place? This is the link where the chain turns from a skin story into a whole body story. Stay with me, because this is the heart of it. Remember insulin's main job, it's the key that opens the door so sugar can leave your blood and enter your cells. Now imagine that. Over years, the locks on those doors start to get stiff. The key still fits, but it doesn't turn as easily. The cells become a little deaf to insulin's knock. The medical term for this is insulin resistance. It just means your cells have stopped responding well to insulin's signal. So what does your body do when the cells won't answer? It doesn't give up. It gets louder. Your pancreas senses that the sugar isn't moving out of the blood the way it should, so it pumps out more insulin. And more. Picture shouting a name across a crowded, noisy room. The first time you call it, heads turn, but if no one answers, you don't whisper, you shout louder, again and again, until your voice fills the whole room. That's your pancreas. The cells aren't listening, so it floods your bloodstream with insulin, trying to force the doors open by sheer volume. You might be wondering why the locks stiffen in the first place. It's rarely one dramatic event. It's the slow accumulation of ordinary things. Years of meals built mostly on quick starch and sugar, each one demanding a sharp burst of insulin. Long stretches of sitting, where the muscles that should be soaking up sugar sit idle instead. Extra weight carried around the middle, where fat doesn't just store energy, it sends out its own signals that make the cells even harder of hearing. And simply, time itself, because the body grows a little less forgiving with each passing decade. None of these alone flips a switch. Together, over years, they wear the locks down. So, if you've been quietly blaming yourself, stop. This is not a moral failing. It's a slow, common mechanical drift, and the good news in that is precisely that it's mechanical. What drifts slowly in one direction can be nudged, slowly, back the other way. And here's the quiet tragedy in that, the part that connects everything. For a long time, often years, this actually works. The pancreas shouts loudly enough that the sugar does eventually get into the cells. So your blood sugar still looks normal on a basic test. You go to a checkup, they prick your finger or run a simple fasting glucose, and the number comes back fine. You're told you're fine. And in the narrow sense of that one number, you are. But look at what's happening underneath. Your blood sugar is normal only because your insulin is sky high, working overtime to keep it there. The room is quiet only because someone is screaming. And all that extra insulin, all that fertilizer flooding your system day after day has to go somewhere and do something. It reaches the skin in your friction zones, and it grows tags. Do you see what this means? The skin tags on your neck can show up years before a blood sugar test ever turns abnormal. They are one of the few outward signs of high insulin that you can actually see and touch, at a stage when every standard number still looks reassuring. They are the smoke from a fire in a room you haven't checked yet. So let's name the root of the chain, because we've reached it. The root is not your skin. The root is not even your blood sugar. Exactly, at least not in the way you've been taught to measure it. The root is insulin resistance, a slow, quiet stiffening of the locks, going on for years, while your pancreas works harder and harder behind the scenes to keep your visible numbers looking calm. And your neck has been trying to tell you, quietly, politely, one small tag at a time. This is the reframe I promised you at the start. You thought you had a skin problem, so you treated your skin. But the tags were never the problem. The tags were the receipt. They're the printed record of years of metabolic spending, proof of how hard your body has been working in a way no one was looking at. Snip off the receipt and the spending continues. The only way to slow new tags from forming is to address the account they're billed to. Picture an iceberg for a moment. What you can see, the tags on your neck, sitting up above the waterline, is the small, visible tip. It looks like the whole thing. But the mass that actually matters, the part that determines everything, sits below the surface where you can't see it. That's your insulin, your years of resistance, the work your pancreas has quietly been doing. People spend a lifetime chipping at the tip of the iceberg and wondering why it never gets smaller. It never gets smaller because the tip isn't the iceberg. The tip is just the part that happens to be showing. There's one more sign that often travels with skin tags, and I want you to know it because it's part of the same message. Look at the skin of your neck again, the back and the sides, and at your armpits. If, alongside the tags, you notice patches where the skin looks darker, thicker, almost velvety like a smudge of dirt that won't wash off, pay attention. That's called acanthosis nigricans, which is just the medical name for those dark, velvety patches. It is one of the most recognized skin signs of high insulin, and it very often shows up in the same people, in the same zones, as the tags. Skin tags and those velvety patches are two messengers carrying the same letter. Here's something you can do tonight, in your own bathroom with good light and a mirror. Not a test, just an honest look. Count them, actually count the tags on your neck, and note where the clusters sit. Then check the other friction zones, under your arms, your eyelids, the folds where skin meets skin. While you're there, look for those velvety darker patches at the back and sides of your neck. You're not diagnosing anything, you're taking a baseline. Because here's why it helps. A month from now, after you've started the simple things I'm about to give you, you'll have something to compare against. You'll know whether new ones are still arriving or whether the neck has gone quiet. Your own neck becomes the most honest progress report you'll ever get, and it costs nothing to read. Now, I need to stop and be very clear about something, because this is where care matters more than anything else I'll say tonight. Everything I've described, the soft, skin-colored, painless tag on its little stalk, is the ordinary, harmless kind. But not every bump on your skin is a skin tag, and a few signs mean you should see a clinician promptly rather than wait. If a growth on your skin starts to bleed on its own, without being scratched or caught, if it grows quickly, if it changes color, turning black, red, or a mix of colors, if it becomes painful, itches persistently, or develops an irregular, uneven shape, if a single spot simply looks different from all the others, any of those, and you make an appointment, don't assume. A real skin tag is harmless, but other things can disguise themselves as one, and some of those need a trained eye. And please do not cut, tie, or burn these off at home. The pharmacy kits and the thread and scissors methods can cause bleeding, infection, and scarring. And if the thing was ever something other than a simple tag, you've now disturbed it and lost the chance for someone to look at it properly. Removal, when you want it, is a quick and minor thing in a clinician's hands. Leave it to them. There's a second reason to see someone, and it's the hopeful one. A sudden crop of new skin tags, especially together with those velvety dark patches, is a perfectly good reason to ask for a fuller look at your metabolism, not just a single fasting blood sugar, but a conversation about insulin, about your hemoglobin A1C. That's a blood test that reflects your average blood sugar over the past 2 to 3 months and about where you sit on the road toward diabetes. You're allowed to bring this in yourself. You can say, I've noticed more of these. I've read they can be linked to insulin. Can we check? That sentence has started a lot of people on a much better path, years earlier than they otherwise would have. And one rule that holds through everything that follows: if you take any medication, especially for blood sugar or blood pressure, do not change it or stop it on your own. Anything we talk about tonight is a conversation to have with the person who prescribes for you, not a replacement for them. So here's the part you've been waiting for. If the root is insulin resistance, if the fertilizer is too much insulin, shouted out by an overworked pancreas, then the real goal isn't to fight your skin. It's to help your cells start listening to insulin again, so your pancreas can finally lower its voice. When insulin comes down, the fertilizer thins out. And when the fertilizer thins out, the signal telling your skin to grow gets quieter. None of this is exotic. None of it costs much. And all of it has research behind it. Let me give it to you in the order that actually matters. First, and this is the simplest and most powerful one, move your body right after you eat. Not a workout, not the gym, a walk. Here is one of my favorite findings in all of this, because it asks so little of you. In a study published in the journal Scientific Reports, researchers found that a 10-minute walk taken immediately after eating meaningfully lowered the peak rise in blood sugar afterward, and that walking right away, rather than waiting, was the part that mattered most. Other research has found that even a walk of just 2 to 5 minutes after a meal can bend the blood sugar curve down, with the benefit showing up in the window of roughly 60 to 90 minutes after you eat. Think about what that means. The single biggest sugar spike of your day happens after your largest meal. If you stand up and walk for even 5 or 10 minutes instead of sitting down in front of the television, you blunt that spike. Less sugar surging means less insulin shouting. Do that after every meal you can, and you are turning the fertilizer down a little, 3 times a day. Why does walking work so directly? Because your muscles are the largest place your body can park sugar, and a contracting muscle can pull sugar out of your blood without needing much insulin at all. When you walk, your legs open a side door for sugar that doesn't depend on insulin's key. That's why it works within minutes. You're not waiting on the stiff locks. You're using a different door entirely. Second, build and keep your muscle. This is the long game behind the walks. Muscle is metabolically hungry. The more of it you carry, the more sugar your body can soak up and store, and the more sensitive your cells stay to insulin. After 50, muscle quietly slips away unless you give your body a reason to keep it. So give it a reason. You don't need a barbell. Standing up from a chair without using your hands, a few times in a row, carrying your own groceries, rising onto your toes while you wait for the kettle. Gentle resistance, done often, tells your body to hold on to the muscle it has. Speak with your clinician about what's safe for you, especially if your knees or hips or heart need consideration. But the principle is simple: more muscle, calmer insulin. Third, change the shape of your plate, not just the size of it. You don't have to eat perfectly. You have to change what hits your blood first. When a meal is mostly quick starch and sugar, white bread, white rice, sweet drinks, pastries, it floods in fast and demands a huge shout of insulin. When you put fiber, protein, and some fat alongside it, the same meal arrives slowly, like water soaking into ground rather than running off it. The spike flattens. So lead with the vegetables and the protein. Eat them first and the bread last. Trade the sugary drink for water or unsweetened tea, because liquid sugar is the fastest, sharpest spike of all. It arrives with nothing to slow it down. These are small swaps. Made every day, they ease the demand on your pancreas more than any single dramatic diet ever will. Fourth, and this one surprises, people protect your sleep. A run of short, broken nights makes your cells more resistant to insulin, all on its own, even if nothing else in your life changes. Your body reads exhaustion as a kind of stress, and stress raises blood sugar and stiffens the locks further. You can do everything right at the table and undo a piece of it with a week of 4-hour nights. So treat your sleep as part of the protocol, not separate from it. A cooler, darker room, a consistent hour, less screen light in the last stretch of the evening. It's not indulgence, it's metabolism. And one more, a fifth, because it's the easiest of all and most people overlook it. Break up the long stretches of sitting. It isn't only about how much you move in a day, it's about how long you stay still without a break. Hours unbroken in a chair let your muscles go quiet, and quiet muscle stops pulling sugar from your blood. So set a loose rhythm. Every half hour or so, stand. Walk to the window. Refill your water. 2 minutes on your feet, again and again through the day, keeps that side door for sugar propped open. You're not trying to exhaust yourself. You're just refusing to sit perfectly still for hours at a time. Let me make the plate part concrete, because change the shape of your plate can sound abstract. Picture a normal dinner. Instead of starting with the bread or the potato, start with the vegetables and the protein, the salad, the fish, the chicken, the beans. Eat those first, slowly. Then, when you do reach the starchy part, your stomach is already partly full and the rest of the meal is there to slow it down. Same food, same plate, different order. And a noticeably gentler rise in your blood sugar for it. That's the whole trick. You're not giving up the bread, you're just letting it arrive last. Now, let me be honest with you about what to expect, because honesty is the whole point of this channel, and false promises are exactly what I'm trying to spare you. The skin tags you already have will most likely not fall off on their own as your insulin improves. I won't pretend otherwise. You can't unbake a cake. The tags that have already formed are formed. If you want them gone, that's a quick visit to a clinician. What changes, and this is the real prize, is the rate at which new ones appear. That's what you're after. Not erasing the past, but slowing the future. So here's the rough order in which things tend to shift. In the first week or two, you'll likely notice it first in how you feel, not how you look. Steadier energy after meals. Fewer of those heavy, sleepy crashes an hour after lunch. That afternoon, slump softening. That's your blood sugar curve flattening, and it's the earliest, most felt sign that the locks are loosening. Over the following weeks and months, with the walking and the muscle and the better plates holding steady, the deeper number your average blood sugar over time, that hemoglobin A1C can begin to drift down. That's slower. It's measured in months, not days, because it reflects an average. And somewhere in that same window, many people notice the simplest thing of all. They just stop finding new tags. The neck stops surprising them. No fresh ones snagging the collar. The forest stops spreading. That's the trajectory. Feel better in days. Move the numbers in months. Slow the tags across the seasons. Not a cure overnight. A direction turned. I want to ask you something before we close, and I ask it for a real reason, not a small talk one. Tell me your age in the comments. Are you in your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, beyond? I'm asking because this chain doesn't behave identically at every age after 70. Some of these signals shift, and the balance of what matters most moves with it. So I genuinely want to know who's sitting on the other side of this. It shapes what I write next and who I write it for. So here's where we end, back at your neck, where we started, but you're looking at it differently now. Those small, soft tags were never just skin. They were the visible end of a long, quiet chain that runs from your skin, through your friction zones, back to a flood of insulin, back to cells that stopped listening years ago. The tag is the receipt. The fertilizer is the insulin. The root is the resistance underneath. And the message your neck has been carrying patiently all this time was never, "You're getting old." It was, "Look deeper while there's still room to turn." You can turn it, not with a removal kit, with a walk after dinner, with a little more muscle, with a plate built in a different order, with a full night's sleep treated like it matters, because it does. Small things, done often, in the right direction. Go run your fingers along your neck one more time. Now you know what they've been trying to say. And if anything tonight worried you, a tag that bleeds, that grows fast, that changes color, or a sudden crop of new ones, that's not a reason for fear. It's a reason for a calm, simple appointment. Bring what you learned. Ask the question. That conversation is yours to start. Take care of the root, and the surface tends to follow. I'll see you in the next one. This video is for general education and is not medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. It can't account for your individual health, history, or medications. Always speak with a qualified clinician before making changes to your diet, your exercise, or anything you've been prescribed.